Well, welcome to another episode of Boundaries and Brotherhood with my co-host, Miss Carrie from
Florida. I'm a relationship and mindset coach, helping independent women realize they are the prize and effortlessly attract a man that leads and loves their drive.
But today's topic, we're going to keep this short because she's not feeling under the weather, but she wanted to jump on with us, even though we're not streaming this live. The topic is going to be, what's the difference between a man who wants to control and a man who wants to lead, right? This is a topic that in her women's group, in the men's group, you have male chauvinists, you have that, you have feminists, you have all different type of reasoning behind it all. And I want to let Miss Pullaro from Worthy as F take the lead on this because this is her wheelhouse, right? This is her wheelhouse and what she's going through. Miss Carrie, take it away, man. Please answer that. We'll dive more into this.
I think this is such an interesting topic because it is about, more than anything, it's about my perspective.
Absolutely.
More than anything. Because if I see someone, oh my God, they're trying to control me. I mean, is that really true? It's really about just like challenging my thoughts. And how did I grow up? I gave a client an assignment the other day and I asked her, I want you to notice over the next 24, 48 hours, your thoughts about men. Like, what do you think about them? As you're interacting with them every day, like, what is the first thought? And some of the thoughts that she came up with was like, weak, idiots. It was just fascinating, the things that she came up with. And I was like, wow, and you wonder why you're single. Do you know what I mean? If I think they're good for nothing, that they just want to control me, I'm not attractive because they're not attractive to me. And really, the reality is these are ways that I feel about myself.
Yeah.
And that's on a whole deeper level. We don't have to go there today, but
I mean, do you want to?
We could. But no, I think it was a really fascinating assignment. Oh, and I think some other comments she made about like trying to get over on me, not having the best of intentions, just like she was really questioning whether or not, and it sounded like a whole lot of lack of trust, really, was like, I'm going out into the world and I'm not trusting men. And so I'm showing up in this protective space.
Correct.
Coming from protection. You know what I mean?
Correct. Do you think that trauma comes from past relationships? They cite the men's side of everything and stuff, but is it because do you think they're holding on to that trust issue and trauma from other relationships, or does it go even deeper than that with, say, their childhood?
Oh, I think it goes way deeper. I mean, the first relationship that you create when you're a child is with either your caregiver or your father. So that's like the male figure in your life. And so whatever relationship you created there, it's if you don't have an amazing experience, like I have friends that had an amazing experience with their father and they have a great relationship. And I remember growing up and I remember being in high school and one of my best friend and her dad were like that, man. Like they would hang out and they would talk and I'd be like, that is fucking weird. But it was just not my experience. But because I relate everything happening around me as like what I'm going through is my normal. And I think everybody goes through it. So when I'm in a new environment where I am experiencing something new and I'm like, oh, whoa, that's weird. But I remember coming home and talking to my mom about it. And I said, man, Tiffany has like her and her dad like have a great relationship. It's really unusual. And she was like, oh, honey, that's not weird. That's just because you don't have the same relationship with your dad. I talk to my dad about everything. He's been like my best friend since I was a little girl. And I'm like, you're fucking weird too. Do you know what I mean? Like, who does that?
When you see the modern dating scene, the modern men now, a certain demographic, and you see the women in your group, what are the main differences that you see from this type of ill perception, or say they latched on to they don't need the men type of thing? Is it a cop-out thing, or is it something that you see? Because you've been through this.
Mm-hmm.
You've been through this mindset. You've been through this type of thing that you carried on to that. How does it affect these women and how you're basically helping them because you've been through it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of women show up and, well, unfortunately, it's the way that we were raised, like,
Yep.
especially if we were raised with a single mom. It's like, let me raise my daughter to now, like, and I'm going to use my mother as an example. My dad left when I was very young. I think I was 6. And so she would always like instill in me this idea of like, you can be whatever you want and you don't need a man. You can take care of yourself.
What
And
age?
like, I mean, since I was 6 moving up,
Okay.
right
Sorry to
now.
interrupt you, but that's important.
And it's important, especially because like, you don't know how the child is going to reframe that as they grow, right? Like if you take it super literal, oh, like, oh my God, I don't need a man. And now I can't trust them because they leave. Like all the other stories are attached to it, right? And now I begin to date when I like boys. I begin to date. And now I have all of these stories that are all intertwined with, well, I'm attracted to boys and I like boys, but I heard that they're bad and I don't need them.
Oh,
You know what I
that
mean?
breaks parts. No, it makes so much sense now as when you mentioned that reframing at 6 years old and doing something that makes it worth the while, and then it affects your relationships as an adult, or even when from going from a toddler, you've been told this to the stages to now hormones gonna affect. Now, how does it affect when you're looking for a man that wants to lead with our title? And a man that wants to control. Is that the same thing from the reframe? Explain that to me because this is interesting.
I used to believe it was like 2 different things. I guess it can be depending on your perception, but now I believe that it's whatever I'm calling into the space. So it's how I'm showing up. If I'm showing up thinking that a man is trying to control me, I'm going to create that, right? And then I'm going to fight back and we're going to have a huge power struggle. But if I show up with in a different energy where I'm inviting him to lead and I'm in appreciation
Mhm.
and I understand that he wants to provide, like if I understand like the language, their language, and how I can speak to them, and because we speak 2 different languages, I swear. It just so,
Absolutely. I mean, come on.
oh my God. Yeah. And understanding like how I'm showing up can be emasculating to men as
Mm,
well.
absolutely. That makes absolutely sense. So let me reframe this now. As the stages you went through from the girl to the woman you are, what's the difference between a man that you want? Do you want some? Because some women like to have they like to have control. Ultimately, the women want to, in my perception, right? Deep down, they want somebody to lead, but they don't want to show that. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, yeah. If I show you that and then you abuse it, then I've totally set myself up. The whole thing is, it's just like if I keep that wall up, then I'll never have the experience of a man leading because I'm never going to allow it. So it's like you get to put yourself in a vulnerable position. Either way, you're going to be vulnerable. Okay.
Either way, it's a chance, it's a gamble, it's something that you have to actually take the chance to actually do. Now, understand one thing as yourself that you figured this game about it all. How to actually win the game in life with relationships. How much did you have to lower your I wouldn't say lower your standards, but what did you have to change in yourself that made it real?
Had to trust me. And like we talked about this last week where I said,
Sure.
like, there is this fundamental lack of trust everywhere in my life. Right. And so it's like I have to really be on top of that and understand too, like, because the reality is, yes, do I want a man to lead me? Absolutely. Do I trust him to lead me? And I can logically think that I do, but if my body is like, no, and then I'm like, okay, well, let me get curious about that. Like, why is my body feeling that way? And it really is because there is a lack of self-trust there.
Self-trust. That is
And so it's like getting my body adjusted to the fact that you make good decisions. Like you make good decisions, look at going back and looking at past relationships and how I choose differently every single time. And also going back and appreciating every person for who they were. And the reality is, if I'm
that's
coming from responsibility, the way that I showed up in my past relationships did not invite a man to lead me. That's the
big.
truth.
That's big because self-trust, you got to go back, basically jump in like Doc said last week. You got to jump in, like say a time capsule and relive everything and what you could have changed. It's like me sitting on the bunks thinking, looking up at my bunk springs for years, thinking about what could have been wrong, what could I have done differently, what did I do? Where did it all stem from? Where did all my past trauma that I never dealt with? Because, back in the days, therapy wasn't a thing. Now that you become adult, everybody's pushing the therapy, to talk to someone, all these type of things, and it makes all the sense. Now, I want you to elaborate on this trust issue about yourself. What do you tell women that have the same issue or are in this phase of their life or looking for relationships?
Well, a lot of this was just like evidence of, okay, let me go find the evidence where I can trust myself. Like, where is it that I don't trust myself? And so there was a lot of things that came up. The past, I'm going back into the past and I'm identifying poor decision, or what I'm judging as poor decisions, right? Poor decisions, like drug addiction, working at a strip club, abortion, like all those things, right? I'm using all those things as evidence against me. But if I go back and I look at all the things that I can use as evidence for me, and yes, you do have the ability to make good decisions. And there's proof of that in your life, like where you were. And we had this conversation in Worthy as Fuck, like where the girls got so emotional because they were like, we don't take the time to appreciate where I was 10 years ago,
Yeah.
where
Oh,
I am today.
that's small wins because you don't realize, because life keeps going on, regardless of what it is, whether you're stuck in a situation, you're going through something else, you found somebody new, you're dealing with the stuff that's life has. You don't stop to think about a small little stuff because you're so caught up in the bullshit on that daily thing. You don't stop to realize, like, man, where did we start? Where did you come from? And how much did you, because the process that you went through, because life, you know, you're not doing life. And what was the quote I put on one of my videos today was, you're not doing your life comes out of you, not what's life throwing at you, right? It's something that you do the life that you want to create for yourself, whether it's controlling your emotions, controlling that situation that you have within yourself, trusting yourself, and having that relationship. Some of the women that I know that you're dealing with right now, how are they responding to that though? When you mention that, that's deep.
When I mentioned what, like shifting
The small wins, the small things, because do they realize like they've done a lot? Or, give me a story about like one of your, keep the names different. We're not playing a therapist online. We're not doing, but give me a story of one of them that you've helped, right? Because this way, guys, if your wife needs help, or you guys are, that's why I have two different sections, right? We have Miss Pullaro from Worthy as If, and I have Doc. We both did the coaching, but sometimes a woman can give a woman's point of view and they'll listen. The same with men. How is it? Give me a story of how one's changed, because we say that might help our viewers.
Yeah, so yeah, there's actually a young lady that I supported probably 8 years ago. I met her,
Oh, wow.
and we've worked together off and on over the years. But we were very similar stories. Like we came from drug addiction, and well, she had a child. She had a child, and I don't know that she knows who the father is, and all the things. There's all these things, judgment, and she came from a family that drug addiction was rampant in her family, and then she decided, I want to create something completely different.
Good
And
for
so,
her.
of course, cleaning up her life. And it was all of these little shifts and changes. But the one thing that we kept coming back to over and over again was the way that she viewed herself. And that was the work. We did that kind of work for a few years. And then finally, she was like, I think I'm going to start my own business. She was working out of a doctor's office. And she's like, I think that I want to start my own business. She was an artist and she wanted to do eyebrows or permanent makeup or whatever. And she was great at it. So she went out and created her own business. Now, this was years ago, and she's become very successful. In fact, now she trains people to do what she does, got a condo on her own. She's done all of these things. And as we meet, it's just kind of like, she goes, I've forgotten to celebrate myself, like all the things that I've done. And when she just went through the program of Worthy as Fuck, there is an exercise in there that I make them sit and do like a life assessment. And she was like, oh my God, in the last 8 years, I can't say to you how I want to pinch myself because my life is so different today than it used to be, than me being passed out in a car on heroin.
Yeah.
Like, fucking different.
Really. What kind of wins did she tell you she had besides the major ones and the small steps? Because a lot of people don't understand. The small steps lead to bigger things. Everybody just wants the big thing.
Yeah.
The small step is the one that counts. That's what I tell a lot of people. The small ones is the ones that you overlook, but the small ones is the one that leads you to that step to the bigger picture. Because even for myself, when you look at the situation I'm in now, everything is temporary. Yeah, I have my family, I have my kids. I mean, can't do nothing without them. I get frustrated, but it's the biggest happiness. But I look at the small wins, the small little wins that count and make me feel good because I could put my head down, conquer the world, do everything else. But at the end of the day, it's like, what am I going to miss? What are the small wins that I get? So, waking up to me being on my computer and these dudes want to scare me every day. Boo. Like, okay, one day I'm gonna miss that, right? But what are the small wins you tell your clients that you coach that they write down? I want to hear some of those wins.
Oh, some of their wins?
Yeah.
Sometimes it can just be so simple of, oh my God, I've created time for my family. I think that's a
Big.
big thing for women. I mean, at least for me and successful women is just kind of like, I feel like, oh my God, I have to keep going, keep going, keep going. And I don't realize that how everything touches everything. So if I'm just successful in my career or in school and all of these things that I can get praised for, then like my relationships are going to suffer. And then I wonder why I'm alone and single, right? Or I don't have a good relationship with my family.
Right. That's one thing I just talked about. I just had a conversation with Andrea about because it's like, yeah, you could be working hard, you're putting everything on the weight of your shoulder, you're the breadwinner right now, you're doing everything else, but get off your phone. You're used to being on their phone, on their layovers and this and that. So it's like, when you come home, get off your phone, go play with the kids. All they want is attention. Other than time, there's a difference between attention and time. Does this affect the relationship building in finding a man that's you want to lead, you want him to lead, or you want him to control certain aspects? Is that right or wrong to even ask?
Say that one more time.
Right? Now, since our title was you want a man to lead or have full control, right?
So I think everyone, the desire is for someone to lead. And I think it comes down to interpretation there, where like some people think of lead as control, and that's not the case at all. It's, man, knowing that somebody else has your back and I can take like a supporting role and relax and breathe and not have to stress out about, oh my God, I have to do it all. Like we're not meant to do that.
Do you admit that though? That you have to yourself now compared to Carrie before?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Carrie before be
Yeah, so before it would be like a power struggle. And so it's so interesting because I can look back at those relationships and see why they didn't work because it was a total power struggle. It was, I have to be better than you and you need to know it. I need you to know that I don't need you. And it's interesting because it made sense to me back then. And now I'm like, why would I have that energy around someone that I really cared about? Well, I need you to know that I don't need you. I mean, that's just a protective. And
then I think so because, like you said, what you tell yourself, I want to prove to you that I really don't need you, but I want you to be in my life, right? Like that just kind of like does this, right? With the energy and how you think. Give me,
man, it's emasculating. I'm emasculating the man.
Man, yes.
It's so
But you
emasculating.
understand that. How does that work now? With you see okay, what is the youngest woman you're coaching right now?
Oh, right now, I would say maybe 29.
Okay, so she's gone through all those steps, right?
And I have had clients that have been in their early 20s.
How does that work out? I mean, that's a whole nother story. We could
And it really just depends because I'm telling you, if women show up open and are like, hey, I realize, like, you'd be surprised how many women have the self-awareness today because they are products of their environment. Maybe their mother or father is in personal development now and they're beginning their own little journey where they're like, okay, cool, I'm open. Or they've seen some shit blow up in their family and they're like, hey, I know if I keep going down the way that I'm going, I'm gonna create that. Like, I don't want to create that.
how does it what is your sweet spot client, basically?
Oh, I would definitely say anywhere from like 40 to 55.
Okay. 40, 50, 55. The younger, but you said it's really comes down to perception and what they really want. Because if they're open, they're willing to understand it, to take self accountability, because self accountability is a huge one,
Yeah.
and they're aware of this. How does your backstory trump a lot of the things that you see now with these women?
Well, the one thing that I notice is a lot of women don't want to be vulnerable and share about their backstory. So everybody
Okay,
has a fucking story.
of course,
Right.
absolutely,
But like so many people don't want to share, or they might think, oh, my story isn't like bad enough.
correct. Yeah.
And that was interesting, is to get people that are like, oh, well, my story isn't bad enough. And I'm still struggling when it comes to communicating. I'm still struggling when I'm showing up in relationship, but I've had this whole terrible story, so something must be wrong with me. Like it's very
Oh,
easy
they're
that I notice that
comparing. They're
yeah.
comparing. But then
Mhm.
okay, but then like I said, you're they don't wanna compare their backstory to your story, vice versa, and this and that. But like I tell some of my clients, like some of my guys, is your story is your story. I made the
Absolutely.
bad decisions to this. I'm just using this so that you don't have to go down that road, especially when I'm talking to these kids and stuff like that. How has you giving up control to Abel allowed you to flourish?
Oh man, like just knowing that I'm fully supported and understanding that it's like just allowing somebody else to come in and support me. And it's so there's part of me that's kind of like, oh, this feels so uncomfortable, but it's so relieving and I feel like I can breathe. And I feel
Oh,
like I
that's
can
huge.
focus on other things. And I know I didn't understand that for a long time because I kept thinking like, how do you do that? Like, I don't know how, when people would tell me, well, you just let down your walls. What the fuck does that mean?
Oh,
What do you mean? And it really isn't just about your perception of like
okay.
and that's why I had given the client the assignment of notice all your thoughts around men. I had to notice all my thoughts around men. Like, what was I really thinking about them? And I had to be really honest with myself because if I'm not honest, then nothing will ever change.
True, true, true. How does it? That was you said something so profound. It was like now you can actually breathe. You know how much weight that carries. Amber, if you're watching this, she can breathe because of you. She'll see the. But it's so relieving to say, because we want women to also breathe and their other half, because it takes two. You mean how does it compare to the men that used to be controlling versus leading?
Mm. So,
Guys,
my last relationship, I used to view him, I'm like, oh my God, he is so unbelievably controlling. But the truth was, I was unbelievably controlling because I wanted to protect myself. So I was trying to control all the different outcomes in the household. I mean, within the relationship, everything, because I felt uncomfortable. And I felt like if I could, so it was a power struggle. We were both like, just like fighting to control one another. And then we realized that I was like, oh, he has a different idea of what relationship looks to him is totally different than what relationship looks to me. And it
nice.
doesn't make him wrong and it doesn't make
Yeah.
me wrong. It just we're not going to be compatible because we have two completely different ideas of relationship.
Right. Now, was his perception of leading, say, a woman of your character, did it help or did it hinder him? Or did he even know what he was getting into?
I've actually reflected on this before where I was like, I think he wanted more of a,
Standard.
and I have to think about the word I'm going to use because sometimes this word triggers me, like submissive, subservient, like
Yeah.
maybe didn't speak her mind as much. Maybe that was what he was looking for.
Mm,
But that doesn't mean that that type of female is weak. If this is what I'm desiring, then how can I create an environment to where I can create safety for someone to show up in that way?
true. True. True.
And I'd say that's the same for me. How can I create an environment where he feels safe enough to lead that I'm not going to push back and try to fight him and have a power struggle?
That makes sense. At least you notice that. I mean, even like for myself, I've dated strippers, owned a strip club, went out. I had porn stars that used to be on my beck and call. You mean so? It's like you want to have this strong personality, but at the same time, I didn't want. a fully submissive Asian style type woman.
Right.
You mean I wanted somebody who's going to push back a little bit, put back on me, because in this way we can kind of like, bounce ideas off, stuff like that. But it's the same thing. And then it comes on to also men's actually having confidence, and their self-esteem has to be a little high. Mine could have been at one time a little too much. But you know what I mean? That's just part of my journey also. You mean some of the women I've been with, you wouldn't, most men wouldn't even consider because of just the boldness of it all. But at the same time, I understand where you're coming from, because to me, at the end of the day, they want this man to lead, to have the confidence, to be able to serve, protect, and everything else. But they want to add their input also and be respected for it, right?
Yes, and
Because that's
really,
huge.
I think that's really all anybody wants is just like the respect and the consideration. Like that's not the attitude to go in with. But there's also that level of trust where I get to trust you and know that there's a reason why you're making the choice that you're making.
You want to know the back end of how the wisdom or the knowledge came about. Let me ask you this. How do you deal with Abel now when he has so much experience? Do you just shut down, or do you know when to kind of like, okay, like, oh, like, okay, like an authentic okay, not the okay, walk away, you bastard kind of thing. Like, okay, I understand now. You process that for a couple hours or days. How does that work for you?
It depends on the day. That's the truth. Trust. And also like being really aware of where things come from. So last night we went to this is so great. We went to a class on limiting beliefs. I was going and I asked him if he wanted to come. He came with me and we were talking about limiting beliefs, and we were talking about like limiting belief that you believe is true. And so like for me, I was a volunteer, and there was this really weird story around not being attractive and being alone.
Okay.
And so when we dove down deep into the story, there was an event that happened when I was like 6 years old where there was this boy that I liked, but he liked my friend, and I had just cut my hair like a boy haircut. And all these people made fun of me and told me I was a boy. So I have this whole like trigger of like if I'm in my yoga pants all day, right? And then Abel walks in the room and he's like, hey, go dress up. You worked out today. You look like a dude. Go dress up and let's go do something.
That's cool though. That's points.
But I'd never understood what he would make a comment. It's different today. Like I can't just eat McDonald's, or I can't eat this. I have to be so mindful. And he's like, Carrie, we're getting old. And when he says stuff like that, there is this part of me that I'm like, everything just like triggers within me. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? Learning that these stories that happened when I was younger affect me today. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 48 years old. That was 42 years ago. And it's showing up in my relationship today. That was a really powerful moment last night. When we got in the car when we were leaving, and I said, I've never talked about that before. I even forgot it happened. That's like, I had just never addressed it before. But it just goes to show you that how all these little moments in our life like are like forming our opinions of ourselves and our beliefs about ourselves and what we're creating in the world.
I mean, it's so cool because with your age, with my age, the sense of mortality sets in.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and it just so, like you said, it's so refreshing because he understands where he is in life. You understand that that's where you are in life right now. You're dealing with all these limiting beliefs, these past traumas, these absolutes that may or may not be true. What if you hadn't changed?
I wouldn't be here.
You would be still in the same boat.
Yeah,
Carrie, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also like learning to like learning your partner. Like if he's stressed out at work, like yesterday, for example, there was something I wanted to discuss with him, but he had a full day and he was super busy. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to send him a text message, let him know that we'll have a conversation later or whenever we would have the opportunity. But it's just like little things like that. And I'm like, and I know it might sound so silly, but little things like that are things I didn't care about before. When I'm ready to talk, we're going to talk right now.
Yeah. Respect for the man. That's what's so nice, the respect level. This is how perfect relationship works, even though nothing is perfect. If I put the needs of the other person first and serve them, and they do vice versa to me, and not just materialistic things and just thinking about the things like the small things like you just said, when we have an opportunity, I would like to talk about it, right? This and that. Okay,
Yeah.
you mean listen, it's in his head. You planted the seed, and it's so nice to see the refreshing of how you simply did that and you noticed it,
Mhm.
right? Most women out there, they just want to take, 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 take their side because they've been groomed from a different age group also. And it's so nice to see that. What would be some other techniques that you could tell women watching this? Because there's a lot of women watching these things now. The demographic is crazy. What would be some techniques that you use when you catch yourself trying to be right all the time?
Oh, like clearing. I get to go have a clearing conversation and own my part in the situation without an expectation. And I think this is where, like, I have this conversation with clients all the time where they're like, well, he didn't apologize to me. But that's not what it's about. This is about you recognizing where you were ineffective and you get to own it. And that's it, period. There is no expectation of the other person to be or say or do anything. This is really about you being okay with you.
Nice, nice, nice. Let's end with this. We went so off topic with it, but this is what makes our Tuesday so fun.
Yes.
Understand this one thing, right? When you're in a position and I say I want my other half to lead, I let her lead because I'm confident in myself. I don't want I don't want to feel like she doesn't have a say, even though she says like you always try to control everything. You mean that women are always gonna say that. But at the same time, she gets to do what she wants because there's a certain mutual trust there, respect level, and everything else that we have going on in our lives. Does she take me for granted? I take her for granted. Sometimes that's gonna be a topic I want to talk about with you. Taking each other for granted, right? Because
Oh, yes. Next week. Let's do it.
but I wanted to say, like, it's so great to see this happen from Miss Carrie because when she leads in her practice and she is able to support and vice versa, it's a winning combination. And that's what we want for you guys watching this video. I mean, if you want to leave a comment, if you want to reach out to her, please find her. This is why I tag her and everything. Reach out to her. If you had your other half that wants to have some deep work, reach out to her or reach out to both of us. Maybe we can put a collaboration together and work something out where that'd be even perfect because it's so great just to see. Carrie, let's end it for you because if not, we're going to be here 5 hours.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But, yeah, I think how I want to end it really is just learning to take responsibility. And that's the real, like the responsibility of my thoughts and the way that I'm observing the surroundings around me and my judgments of other people. I mean, it's just really that simple. If I can just like correct or I don't even want to say correct, if I can choose a different thought for people that that I'm in relationship with, how much my relationships will change. I mean, it's just massive.
Where can they reach you at besides
At
Facebook? Or
at Carrie Pullaro on Instagram or on
okay,
TikTok.
okay, perfect. We'll end that right there, guys. This is Greater One from Boundaries and Brotherhood. No, I gotta rename this, but we'll keep it for now. Carrie, we see you in the next one.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. All right, guys, bye.